Before we dive in, here's a blunt reality check for the algorithm and for you. If you're American and you believe power should answer to integrity, hit subscribe right now, because stories like this don't get told on the evening news. And once you hear what really happens when arrogance meets the wrong kind of quiet, you won't want to miss the next one. Now here's the story. Corrupt cops harassed a quiet stranger and her German Shepherd, unaware she was a Navy SEAL. It began on a rain-heavy evening off a two-lane highway in coastal Virginia, the kind of road that collects forgotten towns and men who believe a badge is a crown, when a single matte gray pickup rolled to a calm stop at a flickering gas station, its engine humming softly like it was trained to wait. And from the cab stepped a woman in a plain hoodie, worn boots, and jeans that had seen more dust than malls. Her dark hair tied back without style or apology, and beside her emerged a large German Shepherd with eyes too steady for a pet and posture too deliberate for coincidence, the pair moving with quiet efficiency that drew attention only because they didn't seek it. And that alone irritated Officer Dane Keller, a deputy with a reputation stitched together by favors, forfeiture money, and an unspoken rule that outsiders paid extra. So when he rolled in with his partner Cruz, lights off, but egos loud, he decided this woman would be their evening's entertainment, starting with the slow walk, the hand resting theatrically on his holster, the smirk that assumed compliance before words were spoken. And when he asked for her ID with a tone that suggested it wasn't optional, she handed it over without hesitation, her eyes never rising, her breathing even, the dog sitting at her heel without command, which unsettled Cruz more than he wanted to admit. Because trained dogs always meant trained people. But Keller was already pushing, commenting on her being alone, on the dog being too aggressive, on how out-of-state plates often meant trouble. And when she calmly replied that she was just passing through and would be on her way as soon as she fueled up, Keller leaned closer, invading space, fishing for fear, but found none, only stillness, which to men like him felt like disrespect. So he escalated, asking her to step away from the vehicle, suggesting the dog be restrained, inventing probable cause like a street magician palms coins. And that was when the twist quietly began, because the woman, whose name was Mara Voss, had not been passing through at all. She had been observing, logging, and confirming patterns for 3 days as part of a sealed joint task force inquiry into asset seizures and disappearances tied to Keller's unit. And the gas station stop was not a mistake, but a calculated exposure. And when Keller ordered her to place her hands on the hood, she complied, because compliance was sometimes the sharpest blade. But when he roughly grabbed her wrist, the German Shepherd rose in one smooth motion, not barking, not lunging, just standing, a silent threat calibrated to centimeters. And Keller, rattled, drew his taser, shouting commands that only escalated the scene, until a third cruiser arrived, sirens blaring unnecessarily. And with it came the town's unspoken rule in uniform form: overwhelm first, explain later. And as rain thickened and the gas station clerk retreated inside, phones out but shaking, the deputies boxed Mara in, accusing her of resisting, of harboring a dangerous animal, of failing to answer questions she had never been legally required to answer. And through it all, she said almost nothing, because silence under pressure is something you learn in places where noise gets you killed. And when Keller made the fatal decision to shove her face first onto the hood, wrenching her shoulder just enough to test pain compliance, something ancient and disciplined flickered behind her eyes, because what he didn't know, what none of them knew, was that Mara Voss had led a SEAL fire team through Fallujah, had extracted wounded teammates under mortar fire in Kandahar, had been trained to assess threat vectors faster than thought. And right now, her assessment was simple. Escalation was inevitable, documentation complete, witnesses present, and survival assured. And when Keller tried to cuff her with a twist meant to humiliate, she moved. Not explosively, not dramatically, but with surgical inevitability, rolling her shoulder to relieve pressure, stepping inside his balance line, and redirecting his grip into a joint lock that dropped him to one knee before his brain caught up. The dog simultaneously placing itself between her and Cruz with a low, controlled growl that froze him in place, because every instinct he had screamed that this animal was not bluffing. And the scene detonated into chaos, as one deputy reached for his weapon and found himself disarmed by a woman who moved like gravity had given her permission, a baton clattering uselessly on wet concrete, a cruiser. Door slammed as another officer tripped backward, and all of it happened in under 8 seconds, the kind of efficiency that only comes from years of violence carefully mastered, not enjoyed. And when it ended, Keller lay gasping, his own cuffs biting into his wrists, his radio cracked beneath a boot, And Mara stood back, hands visible, voice finally calm but carrying, announcing her name, rank, and authority, citing federal statutes with precision, and as if summoned by the truth itself. Unmarked SUVs rolled in, lights washing the station in red and blue finality, agents stepping out with warrants already warm from judges who had waited months for this exact confirmation. And Keller's face drained as he realized the quiet stranger wasn't prey but the trap, that the dog wasn't aggressive but disciplined, that the woman he tried to break was the one about to dismantle his entire operation. And as agents read rights and secured evidence, the gas station clerk filmed openly now, the video later going viral with headlines that screamed about karma and corruption. But what the headlines never captured was the stillness afterward, Mara kneeling to check her dog's paws for glass, whispering praise in a tone softer than rain. Because violence, to her, was never the point. Accountability was, and in the days that followed, indictments fell like dominoes, forfeiture funds traced, missing persons located, and a small town learned that power doesn't always announce itself with sirens. Sometimes it arrives quietly, fills its tank, and waits for you to make the first mistake. And somewhere between the courtroom and the highway, Mara Voss disappeared again, mission complete, leaving behind only a lesson that spread far beyond Virginia. The most dangerous people aren't the loudest ones. They're the ones who stay calm while you underestimate them.